Hi guys, I'm Shmi. Hello and welcome back to the channel where you join me today at the Space Dubai, surrounded by a pretty incredible display of cars. But today is going to be my first drive at the wheel of the McLaren Elva, the Ultimate Series hypercar. This two-seat open raw driving experience. There are only 149 of them in total in the world, the latest McLaren ever. And today, thanks to the space, I'm going to find out everything about this. We'll talk about all of the details, like the active air management system, how everything works on the interior, and then take it out onto the roads here in Dubai for a little drive to see what it's all about. Now, there have been a few changes here at the space, this magnificent private venue for car enthusiasts. We'll have a quick look around before going into detail with the Elva and taking it out to get behind the wheel and see what it's like. As you may have seen in my previous videos here at the space, this is in fact one of two Elvas that form part of the display, and what a display it is itself. Now slightly more colour coordinated as we look around, but with one of the Devos and the Huayra Roadster up at the front, the two Carbon Series P1s, La Ferrari Aperta, then we have the Ferraris, including now the F12 TDF, we've got the STO and the race cars, the Rolls-Royce Room, the SF90, the G-Wagons, the arrival as well of the Mansouri Porsche Cayenne Coupe, we've got the orange cars of the GT Black Series and the Aventador SVJ63 Roadster, sandwiching the Elva, plus the two yellows, the 918 Spider and the SLS Black Series. But it's all about this today, so let's take a full look here at the McLaren Elva. It is in the McLaren Ultimate Series line, so the P1, the Senna, the Speedtail, and most recently the Elva. Initially, McLaren were going to make 399 of the cars, but they later adjusted that down to 249 before eventually going down to 149, two of which, of course, sit here in this display. It models itself very much on this open driving experience, linking back in some ways to the Can-Am race cars, for example, but part of a resurgence really of this style of car. We saw the SLR Sterling Moss just shy of a decade ago, but then more recently the Ferrari Monza, the SP1 and the SP2, the Aston Martin V12 Speedster, and of course also the McLaren Elva. It is McLaren's latest car ever. We have a development of that engine, the 4-litre twin turbocharged V8, sitting mid-engined of course, unlike the Ferrari and Aston Martin equivalents, which have the engines up front. We've got the mid-engine configuration here with 815 horsepower and 800 newton meters, all going to the rear wheels through the 7-speed dual clutch gearbox. But it means, thanks to the lightweight, this will do the 0 to 100 km per hour or 62 mile per hour sprint in just 2.8 seconds, and it will do the 0 to 200 km per hour or 124 mile per hour sprint in only 6.7, which is lightning fast. And I can imagine with the open experience that will be quite something. Now, of course, there's a lot of clever technology beyond the use of carbon fiber, the 3D printed exhaust tips, and for example, up front, we have the AAMS, the active air management system, which effectively raises this front part to create an oasis of calm, as they call it, of calmer air. So the way that works is by channeling air through the front, coming up here, having a deflector at the front, so it means the faster air arriving can be pushed up and over the cabin. So effectively, you have reduced buffeting when you're driving in this fantastically open cabin. Look at this. You have the dihedral doors. In fact, just to open these up quickly, there's a button just on the inside. The doors open out like McLarens have traditionally done. You've got the carbon fiber tub, the whole car built around carbon fiber effectively. These seats saving some weight as well. You can see the slightly shorter bases, which make entry and exit of the car a little bit easier. All of the steering column, including the active dynamics panel controls for the handling and the powertrain, actually move with the wheel. If you move and adjust this, it all shuffles together. You've got that fixed screen in the center though, offering all of your infotainment and additional details. The name Elva itself, by the way, actually comes from the company who were responsible for constructing the chassis back in the 1960s of the McLaren M1A, M1B, M1C race cars. McLaren had the rights to that, or now have the rights to it, and have used it in the, obviously, naming of this particular car, the Ultimate Series cars, often wearing names that stand out: Senna, Speedtail, Elva now, for example. We've got an active rear spoiler, which also works as an air brake, pitching itself up forwards when you go hard on the brakes. You can see through to the engine mounted back in here. You have a small storage space area underneath those rear buttresses, and then back here you've got the quad tailpipes, two out the back, two here on the rear deck as well. So I imagine if this gets warm, that will probably make some pretty cool fire or flame displays out the back. A lot going on down here with the diffuser and the aero work, as you can see. But we're going to be going out in this in a moment. I do want to show you a lot more through. For example, you've got these storage buckets on each side. We've got the armrest central console. But we need to get the car fired up. We need to head on out. So that means climbing on board, and also check this out. Check out the air management here and the way this works. The way you've got these channels that go all the way through the doors to bring the air in over the bonnet, through the doors, in towards the intercoolers, or depending what needs cooling. But to climb in, it's effectively one step in, slide yourself down, and then seated with this view, this open view. And yes, I will need to wear a helmet when driving. This will not be much fun. You pull the door down by grabbing here by the door handle, by the air conditioning vent. You do have soft close. I think I've had the door open just a touch too long, but pull that down, shut it up. You've got comfort access, so you can pull all of this together. And this is where, as I said, to shuffle your driving modes, you literally can reach without even taking your hand off the wheel. You've got the rocker shifter system for the gearbox, so you can either press up or down from either side depending what you want. And then you've got the magic red button in the center to start it up. So let's do exactly this and fire up the McLaren Elva. There we go. A feeling of power from behind, a feeling that this means business, a feeling that is going to be quite spectacular out on the roads. I'm just looking and taking in where I'm sat here. As you can see, the rev counter artificially reduced initially as we're all cold, but this 8-inch digital display sitting behind the steering wheel. As you do adjust the steering column, this all moves together. The air vents are all very sportily designed, lots of carbon fibre around, as you can see. The seats, which you can slide forwards and backwards, and then this view behind as well. But it's going to be time in a second, so let's get ready to take out the McLaren Elva, my first drive in the latest McLaren Ultimate Series. Here we are then, the McLaren Elva. Now I am wearing a helmet. I suppose technically you could drive it just wearing sunglasses, but I feel that the wind buffeting would be moderately insane if you were to do that. Now I do have a microphone kind of wedged inside my visor, so I hope that you're able to hear me clearly. I apologise in advance if not. But I tell you what, at slow speed like this, just pulling away normally, it actually feels pretty civilized. Now this is where we can press the button and the shield comes up in front. Wow, that makes such a big difference. Straight back down, instantly feel the buffeting, obviously around my neck. Pop it back up and everything is so much smoother. It's amazing how quickly that gives you a difference. Obviously this is driving at slow speeds. Now we've got the lift system up to go over the speed bump. No such thing as a rear view mirror in here. I suppose technically you just kind of look behind you. Familiar instant feel. Obviously I'm lucky to have the Senna in my garage, which this heavily shares, I suppose, a lot of dynamic styles and controls and feel. Vehicle auto lowering as we build up the speed a little bit. I mean, this feels like a pretty bizarre thing to be driving right now. This feels totally, I mean, I'm open. I'm completely open to the elements, but obviously helmeted. It's a bit like, I guess, driving a motorcycle. I have to confess I have not really done much by way of motorcycles. Just as we head out at 80 kilometers per hour, certainly feeling a little bit more of the wind buffeting at this kind of speed. I feel like this is a car that you want to enjoy more in the slower type environments, but I want to pop it up into, well, let's go sport mode on handling and on powertrain, and manual and ESC dynamic, just to get a slightly more audible experience from it. Oh, that sound is cool! Yeah, I feel if I was wearing just sunglasses, I would feel very buffeted right now. Wow, okay, watch out. Driving here is crazy. A big part of me just wants to double check and make sure that I've got everything like secure in here, that my wallet isn't going to go flying out of my pocket or something like that. But it's fairly calm on my face. I don't feel massively wind buffeted, obviously, inside the helmet. The cracks on the shifts, I mean, not that you can hear a lot of the engine sound. Obviously, with this setup, you're basically experiencing a whole lot of wind, but just enjoying an initial first sense of what this car is about, to be honest. 100 kilometers an hour cruising, and yeah, I feel my head being pushed around and buffeted. You know, this car can go ludicrously fast, but I think you'd probably want to drive it at slower speeds. I mean, if you're fully going out for the track for that experience and that's what you're after, then no doubt it's truly fabulous. And just drop it down to second gear for a moment. It's really fast, just babying the revs on it. But when you go below 60 kilometers an hour, let's say 40 miles an hour, that's where you get this calm, you get this unusual sense of calm inside the car. And my word, does it feel good. I mean, it's just a totally unusual setup and scenario and feeling, and just being here like this, sat open to the elements. And like I say, here you don't really feel that much wind. Put your hand up and you start to feel a whole lot more from everything around. And I mean, if you saw somebody driving a car like this, you'd just be confused. What is that? What is that ridiculous thing? It is quite noisy at slow speed. I mean, obviously the engine's right behind me, and oh, this is ridiculous. This is absolutely ridiculous. I think we need the lift system again for the next bump. Carefully does it. Oh, this is amazing. I'm absolutely loving it right now. The feeling of grip. McLarens always do this wonderfully. The front end, the steering feel, the feedback, hydraulic system, those shift cracks. What a monumentally awesome experience. It's very different to the Monza. I mean, obviously the configuration of the powertrain, having an engine behind instead of an engine up front, is going to fundamentally change that from the beginning. But lift system back up for all the lovely speed bumps. I'm enjoying it more on this area of slightly slower roads rather than the full-on motorway type experience. It's a completely different kind of car and driving, of course, but I feel like this is where this thing's much more at home. Through the corners. Okay, this is really cool. This is, I mean, I'm probably getting a bit sunburned, but right now that doesn't matter because it's so much fun and so completely unusual that life is brilliant. I feel almost like I've forgotten something, like I've forgotten to put the roof on my car or something moderately ridiculous like that. Now if I want to go up into track mode, quick flick of the button on the powertrain, and we turn the other way, quick flick for the handling, it will adjust the hydraulic suspension and get everything set up even more dynamically. Thankfully the lift in here is just one single press of the button, unlike the Senna where you have to go into the mode and then up and down, which just makes it that little bit more complicated. This is moderately ridiculous. I mean, I knew it would be cool from my experience driving in the Monza, but it's really, and I've been as a passenger in the SLR Stirling Moss, which is obviously quite a similar concept, albeit again with the engine up front. This is unique in terms of being a mid-engined, completely permanently open vehicle. Oh, it's so unbelievably pinpoint sharp and planted. I mean, McLaren always get this so right. They make these cars that are just a delight to drive. Yes, they can be criticised for basically reusing the same kind of platform and setup, you know, 4-litre twin-turbo V8, carbon tub, hydraulic steering, dual clutch gearbox. It's a very consistent formula, but when it's a formula that works as well as it does, why change anything? Why deviate from what you know customers enjoy and what you know works and what, at the end of the day, creates a really, really, really enjoyable package? I mean, just... And I'm barely scratching on the surface of the performance envelope of this, because it offers so much that driving around like this is always going to be a case of taking it easy and, you know, just cruising around town effectively. And you know, I like this. I just feel like it's genuine spaceship. I mean, this and the Senna are so incredibly different, considering you could argue that there are many ways in which they're very similar. But the absence of a roof and, you know, slightly less downforce, I imagine this will be a bit of a hoot if you wanted to slide it around and misbehave with it. Just throw it into a corner and it feels so light and agile and nimble. And then you do that and it's just wow. Just absolute wow is all you can say, because it's stratospherically fast. It's really hard, I think, to give this perspective, because you can hear me talk about it, but second gear little bit frantic. So this is in ESC dynamic. You have various different stages of traction. If you have it fully on, the car tries to nanny you, obviously, because with this amount of power you need to watch yourself. They know that when they're creating a car like this. If you go into dynamic, it lets you use a little bit more and lets you get a little bit hairy, but still at the end of the day it's going to keep you in check. If you turn it fully off is where, well, at the end of the day you're a braver man than I am, because 815 horsepower in a car that weighs less than 1,300 kilos, traction off, rear wheel drive, I'm not sure that's a very sensible approach. Oh my goodness. The sounds that it makes as well, the sights, the sounds, the experience. It's an experience. That's what they were going for with this, and that is absolutely what they have done. There's only one problem with how good this is, to me, which is the price tag. The Elva was a clean double to the McLaren Senna. These cost £1.425 million versus £750,000 as the base price for the Senna. So it's a lot of money for the car. It's a lot of money from the outset. Obviously, with so few made, that adds some value given the rarity and the exclusivity. Oh, a cat just ran across the motorway slip road. Thankfully managed to miss it. But as we're now out, I mean, there's nothing else that does that. And yeah, okay, the Monza also has 800 horsepower, but it doesn't have a mid-engine setup, and that's obviously the supercar feel. And this is proper supercar feel. It really is. You know, now I'm going fast again, or faster I should say, I'm feeling the wind big time. Above 100 kilometers an hour, your head starts to be shaken all over the place by it. So that's certainly, you know, not where you want to spend a lot of time. But for a mountain pass drive, you imagine this. And, you know, I guess at higher speeds, like I said earlier, if you're on track, you're going to enjoy it because you're there for that experience. So very crazy that they decided to make this. It's a huge thanks to the space that I'm driving this. Just slightly annoying with all the speed bumps. And I also obviously hope that you've been able to hear me properly. It feels like a big Caterham. You know, familiar with small British sports cars? It's that kind of ilk. Caterham, Donkervoort, you know, Little Lotus. It feels small, it feels nimble, it feels alive, it feels very lively. Yet it's at this level of power and this level of performance and this level of exclusivity and price point, of course, with that. What a fantastic, fantastic drive. in a completely bizarre car that I'd love to spend some more time with. I do think without the helmet it would be quite the challenging experience on the brain. What I'm going to do is pop it all back into comfort. Let's soften everything. There we go, comfort mode, all in comfort mode, and back into auto and back into full ESC. So many buttons and switches and things, as we're now going to head back towards the space. We're 15 or so kilometers at the wheel of the McLaren Elva. And I have a big smile on my face. What a crazy driving experience. Back at the space, and I've had a little bit of time to cool down, because unsurprisingly, if you drive a car that is completely open to the elements, completely exposed to the sunshine here in the middle of the day in the Middle East, in the UAE, in 30-something degrees, it's pretty toasty. Anyway, I was also wearing a helmet. That didn't help, but I do have to say that the wind buffeting is far less than you'd expect. This is some very clever trickery that they've got up to, and I want to talk a little bit more about that, a few more surprises and secrets about the Elva as well, and also reflect a little bit on the drive now that I've had a bit more time to process it also. But let's take a full look around this. Of course, the bodywork is completely carbon fibre, the full carbon fibre front clamshell, as you'll notice, no separate join lines for bumpers or wing panels. But if you come right down and have a peek in through the front, it effectively has this very large mouth, which is all to do with the airflow management, whether that's for the cooling or to help with the AAMS system that you have here. Now, this piece actually rises about 15 centimeters up, as you've seen while driving, and does an amazing job of keeping it very calm inside the cabin. I say inside the cabin, inside the space where the driver and passenger are seated. Now, as we come around the car, it's all of this clever aero, the way everything is guided and channeled through the bodywork. You might be wondering about this little piece on the front. Like on the Senna, you press here, open this up. That's where you have your hydraulic steering fluid and your brake fluid. No windscreen washer fluid, obviously, given the lack of a windscreen, but that piece just at the very front. As we come round, you can see some of the shapes and the way you have these louvers to reduce the swelling air inside the wheel arches, the way it's very heavily sculpted. You've got the carbon fibre just around the outside of that area too. I want to pop open the buttresses. Obviously you have these each behind the driver and the passenger, and I've got the key for the car just here, the Elva badge on the back, same key as per the Senna, and you press and hold here and this will pop itself open, and you can lift it up, and inside here you have a little bit of storage space. You can put the helmet just inside there, as we have. There's a dedicated space here for your smart charger, your CTEC charger, and you've also got the speakers going on back here, which is quite cool, the oil filler as well, and obviously all of this is carbon fibre. If we close that, it also has soft close, gently into place, and it tucks down both sides. That has soft close, the doors have soft close. It's all very nicely finished, not too much of a weight penalty to add that. And obviously when you have the doors fully open, they do have quite the dramatic effect as well, which is a big part of it. Carbon everywhere. These seats, which I find quite supportive and comfortable, obviously they do have that shorter base, which is something you notice when driving. Your knees feel a bit more like they're floating in the air in front, but obviously fitting very nicely inside the cabin, reducing weight, which is at the end of the day what this car is all about. Soft close on the doors back in as well. If you come round towards the rear, the illuminated engine bay, as McLaren first introduced with the 720S, where you can see a small part of that 4-litre twin-turbo V8. You can't really access it. That has to be done by the dealers, so pretty much that's all you're going to see of it when looking around the car. And obviously the wing at the moment sitting raised, it can go down flush, or it can be in the air brake position as well. And these very nicely integrated running lights, tail lights around the back, through the middle of all of this mesh, where you can see through and see a lot of what's going on inside this. The inner workings of the Elva, and the diffuser back here too. So no doubt it is a very, very special car, no question about that. Specific wheel design, even lighter brake rotors than the Senna, a kilo lighter as it happens, but fairly large wheels I think for this kind of car. Inside, just to show it's a little bit more of the tech side of things and what it's like when you're actually in here, because it is all quite unique. You have the chassis plaque just there, as per the other McLaren models. This storage cubby, as I said, actually goes quite a far distance back inside on yourself there. Same over for the passenger side. If we just wake it up for a moment, things illuminate, and you have the central infotainment screen with your climate control and all of your settings. At the moment, the screen is on quite dim. I imagine that's a setting that's just got it closed down at the moment, but your media, your phone, navigation, audio, and your usual settings, and your variable drift control, which is only available when the engine is actually running. So we can't have a play through that right now. Just on the dash in front of us, you can get a feel for what that looks like. And obviously down at the bottom is where you've got handling and powertrain and those various controls. So I think one more press, that turns off for the time being. So let me climb back out of the Elva. I really do think it manages to stand out even in a garage like this, displaying a tremendous lineup of the most amazing cars in the world. But I promised a few more final thoughts on the drive as well. And I guess my main takeaway is that this is a unique proposition. There's nothing else like this. Mid-engined, this amount of power, open experience. But in a world where there is also the Monza, I feel that you're never going to drive a car like this at Mach 10. You're going to enjoy pootling around fairly gently or enjoying a mountain pass up to 100 kilometers per hour, because even with a helmet on, you're feeling the forces on your neck at anything above that. And if you're going to be doing that, you're not going for outright performance, which means the benefits of a mid-engine setup aren't there so much. You want a more balanced, perhaps lazier drive, and perhaps that's what the Monza, and I suppose the V12 Speedster, although I haven't driven it myself, actually offer. I mean, there's no question this is a cool thing. This is an undeniably incredibly cool car, and there are 149 very lucky owners, or rather there are 2 that are here, and who knows what else is around the world. But as a, as a car, it's a funny one, and perhaps that's why 149 is the final number. Anyway, I would like to say again a huge thank you to the team here at Space for the opportunity today to come by, to have a look around, and to experience the fabulous McLaren Elva. That's it for this time though. Thank you very much for watching. As always, guys, do check out the pages for the Space on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. All the links are down below, and I will see you again very soon. Cheers.